You never really know a man until he's got you cornered in a kitchen at 2 a.m., with the hum of the freezer masking the sound of your own heartbeat. And God help me, I never thought the first person to prove me wrong would be the so-called gentle chef everyone in town swore was harmless. Ethan, our midnight cook, had the reputation of a saint. People joked that he was the bunny of the staff. Always smiling, always polite, always quick to feed you an extra slice of pie when the boss wasn't looking. I'd bought into the myth. Everyone had. But what no one told me was how dangerous it felt to stand too close to him when the diner was empty, the lights low, and his eyes, those storm-gray eyes, caught me like a hook through the chest. I was just a server trying to make rent, working double shifts at the kind of diner that never closed. A place where the fluorescent bulbs hummed like angry bees and the floor smelled like old coffee grounds no mop could erase. The night shift was supposed to be quiet, lonely even, but Ethan made it anything but. He had this way of moving around the kitchen measured, calm, precisely as if he were conducting a private symphony only he could hear. I used to watch him when I thought he wasn't looking, fascinated by the grace in the way his knife slid through onions or how he leaned into the oven light, his face glowing gold for a heartbeat. That fascination was my first mistake, because one night he caught me staring and didn't look away. "You like watching me work?" he asked, voice low, not mocking, but heavy with something unspoken. I choked on my reply, gripping the tray in my hands like it might save me from drowning. "Two was just zoning out." "Sure you were." He smiled then, not the soft, friendly curve I'd grown used to, but something sharper, hungrier. A smile that stripped the air from my lungs. From that night on, the air between us changed. It wasn't instant, no fireworks, no grand confessions. Just small things at first. The way his hand would brush mine when he passed me a plate. The way his gaze lingered a second too long when I bent to pick up an order slip. The silence between us grew heavy, pulsing, until I started to dread and crave it in equal measure. And then there was that night. The one I can't shake, no matter how many times I replay it in my head, trying to rewrite the ending. It was late, later than usual, and the diner was empty but for us. The neon sign outside flickered, painting the windows in bleeding red. I was leaning against the counter, exhausted, half asleep, when Ethan stepped too close. His presence filled the space like a storm cloud, and suddenly I was wide awake. "You should go home," I whispered, not sure if I meant it. "Should I?" His voice was softer than the night air, but it carried weight. He reached out, fingers ghosting over my wrist, testing. My body betrayed me, heat rushed through me, and I didn't pull away. "Ethan." My name for him cracked in my throat. That's when he leaned in, slow as a predator. His lips grazing my jaw before his teeth found skin sharp, deliberate. He bit me, not hard enough to break skin, but enough to shatter every illusion I'd built about who he was. The world tilted. I gasped, shoving him back, but not far. My chest burned where his mouth had been, and the look in his eyes. God, it wasn't gentle. It was raw, almost feral, and it terrified me how much I wanted him to do it again. What the hell was that? My voice shook, but it wasn't anger fueling it, it was need. Ethan didn't flinch. He just wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and said, like it was the simplest truth in the world, "I'm not who you think I am." He wasn't wrong. The thing is, you can't unsee someone once you've glimpsed that part of them, the part they keep buried under kindness and routine. And Ethan's truth was all teeth and hunger, wrapped in the body of a man who made the best blueberry pie I'd ever tasted. I should have walked away. Any sane person would have. But sanity had nothing to do with the way my pulse raced whenever he was near, or the way my body remembered the press of his teeth like a secret it wanted to keep. From that night, we became something I can't name. Something sharp-edged and dangerous, but threaded with tenderness I didn't expect. Some nights he would tease me, circling closer, his hands brushing mine like a warning. Other nights he was quiet, almost shy again, sliding a cup of coffee my way and pretending nothing had ever happened. It was driving me insane, this push and pull, this dance of closeness and distance. But I was addicted to the burn of his eyes, the weight of his silence, the possibility of what might happen if I stopped resisting. The night it finally broke, the diner had just closed after a rough shift. Rain hammered the parking lot, thunder rolling over the rooftops. We were alone again, the world outside drowning, the hum of the lights the only witness. I was wiping down the counter when Ethan came up behind me, his hand covering mine on the rag. "Stop," he whispered. I froze. His chest was pressed against my back, solid, warm. My breath stuttered. "Why do you keep running from me?" he asked, his voice a storm breaking. "Because you scare the hell out of me," I admitted. And then he turned me around, cupped my face in flour-dusted hands, and kissed me like a man starved. The kiss wasn't soft. It wasn't careful. It was everything I'd been avoiding: messy, hungry, overwhelming. I clutched his apron, pulling him closer, tasting salt and rain on his lips, and for the first time I let myself fall. When we finally broke apart, both of us panting, Ethan rested his forehead against mine. "I don't want to hurt you," he whispered. "Then don't," I said, and for once it felt simple. But nothing about Ethan was ever going to be simple. The morning after that kiss, the diner felt different. Or maybe it was me who'd changed. The stainless steel counters looked sharper, the hiss of the coffee machine louder, the neon hum outside heavier. Nothing had actually changed, and yet I couldn't shake the weight of Ethan's lips still burning on mine. I tried to act normal. God, I tried. I served coffee to truckers with bleary eyes, took orders from college kids cramming for finals, smiled when the regulars made the same bad jokes they always did. But every time Ethan brushed past me, the air crackled. Every time I heard his voice call an order up steady, confident, maddeningly calm, I felt my skin prickle. The worst part? He acted like nothing had happened. He cooked, he plated, he cleaned. He even gave Mrs. Peterson her extra slice of blueberry pie like always, smiling at her with that practiced, polite warmth. But when his eyes met mine, I knew. He knew. And the silence between us was deafening. I lasted 3 nights before I snapped. It was another stormy evening, the kind that made the diner glow like a lighthouse on a drowned highway. I was stacking cups when Ethan slid a plate in front of my grilled cheese, extra crispy, the way he'd noticed I liked it. "You haven't eaten," he said, eyes fixed on the plate. "I'm not hungry." He looked at me then, sharp and unyielding. "You lie too easily." The words cut, because he was right. I wasn't just hungry, I was starving. And not for food. I was starving for the thing I couldn't name, the thing I kept pretending wasn't pulling me under every time he came close. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, my voice cracking. His brows furrowed. "Doing what?" "This," I snapped, gesturing between us. "You kiss me like you need me, like you'll break if you don't, and then you act like nothing happened. You smile at customers, you make your damn pies, and you look at me like you're holding something back. So tell me, Ethan, what the hell are you hiding?" The kitchen went silent. The rain outside seemed to pause, waiting. Ethan wiped his hands on his apron, slow, deliberate, as though stalling for time. Then he said, almost too softly to hear, "Because if I give you everything, you'll run." I froze. "Don't," he added, eyes flashing when I opened my mouth. "Don't say you wouldn't. I've seen it before. People want the version of me they can handle, the polite cook, the harmless bunny. They don't want this." He gestured at himself, but it wasn't his body he meant. It was the thing under his skin, the thing that had bitten me, kissed me, unraveled me. "I'm not people," I said, hating how desperate I sounded. "Then prove it." His voice was a challenge, sharp as glass. I should have walked. Every instinct screamed at me to protect myself, to shut this down before I got burned. But I didn't. I stepped closer instead, my heart hammering like it wanted out of my chest. "Prove it how?" I whispered. That was when he grabbed Maya's hands, gripping my waist, pulling me in like he'd been waiting his whole life for permission. His mouth crashed onto mine, and I swear the world split open. There was no polite chef, no harmless bunny. There was only fire, teeth, and hunger. I melted into him, clutching at his shirt, kissing back with all the fear and need I'd been choking on for weeks. It was reckless, dangerous, and I didn't care. When we broke apart, breathless, Ethan's forehead pressed to mine. He whispered, "Don't run," and I didn't. Things got messy after that. Not romantic movie messy. Real messy. The kind that leaves bruises on your ribs and secrets in your chest. Because loving Ethan, or whatever it was we were doing, wasn't simple. It wasn't late-night dates and flowers. It was stolen moments in a kitchen that smelled of grease and rain, whispered words in the back alley while the dumpsters reeked, hands brushing under fluorescent lights while customers chewed burgers 10 feet away. It was chaos, and it was intoxicating. But with every night that passed, with every kiss, every bite, every confession muttered against my skin, the question grew louder. What was he hiding? He gave me pieces, little shards of himself, sharp and glinting. I've hurt people before. I'm not good at gentle. Sometimes I don't know where the line is. I wanted to tell him I didn't care, that I'd take the risk, the sharp edges, the storm. But the truth was I was scared. Not of him, of myself, of how much I wanted him, how much I was willing to give up just to keep him close. One night it all came to a head. We'd just survived a hellish rush, drunks, college kids, a busted coffee machine, the works. I was dead on my feet, scrubbing a table when Ethan appeared, looming too close. His eyes were darker than I'd ever seen them, storm gray, almost black. "You're killing yourself here," he said. "It's a job. It's eating you alive." "So what if it is?" I snapped. "We don't all have the luxury of hiding behind a stove, Ethan. Some of us have to scrape tips just to pay rent." The words hung between us, cruel and hot. His jaw clenched, and for a second I thought he'd walk away. But then he grabbed my wrist tight, almost painful, and hissed, "Don't you get it? I don't care about the job. I care about you." The diner spun. "You can't just say that," I whispered. I just did. My chest ached, because I wanted so badly to believe him, to let that truth sink in. But fear clawed at me, fear of what he wasn't saying. "What are you so afraid I'll see?" I demanded. His grip loosened. For the first time since I'd met him, Ethan looked lost. Not hungry, not dangerous. Just a man stripped bare. "Myself," he said. And then, before I could stop him, he walked out into the rain. I didn't see him for 3 nights. 3 nights of silence. 3 nights of serving pie to strangers, of wiping counters that felt emptier without him, of listening to the rain without his quiet hum in the kitchen. I told myself it was fine, that I didn't need him, that maybe it was better this way. But on the 4th night, when the door creaked open and Ethan walked back in, soaked through, his hair plastered to his forehead, I realized I'd been lying to myself all along. Because I didn't just want him. I needed him, and that was the most terrifying truth of all. The 4th night marked a shift I couldn't undo. Ethan stood in the doorway of the diner, drenched in rain, the hem of his apron clinging to his legs. The neon light outside painted his soaked frame in crimson and violet, as if he'd stepped out of another world and into mine. He didn't say a word at first. Neither did I. The whole place was empty. No truckers, no students, no night owls, just me and him. Silence thick enough to choke on. "You came back," I said finally, hating how small my voice sounded. His eyes lifted to mine, gray storms brewing there. I shouldn't have left. Anger surged, covering the ache I'd carried for days. "No, you shouldn't have. But you did." "I was scared," he admitted. The words felt foreign coming from him, like a confession dragged out of the dark. I laughed sharp, bitter. "You? Scared? You're the one who bites people in the middle of the night like it's nothing. You're the one who makes me feel like I'm walking a wire every time you look at me. Don't you dare stand there and act like you're the victim." His jaw tightened. Water dripped from his hair onto the floor, dotting the tiles like tiny wounds. "I'm not the victim," he said. "I'm the threat." Something in me cracked at that. He believed it. I could see it etched in every tense line of his body. "Then prove me wrong," I whispered. Ethan's shoulders sagged, as if the weight of every unspoken truth pressed down on him. Slowly, carefully, he crossed the room. Each step felt like a dare. By the time he stood inches from me, I could smell rain on his skin, the faint trace of cinnamon from the pie crusts he'd baked earlier. "I want you," he said, simple, unvarnished. His voice didn't tremble, but his eyes did. "But I don't know how to want someone without breaking them." My breath caught. "You don't get to decide that for me," I shot back. My hand found his shirt, gripping the damp fabric. "You don't get to stand there and tell me what I can or can't survive. That's my choice." His lips parted, but before he could reply, I pulled him down and kissed him. It wasn't soft this time. It wasn't testing. It was a collision, a war, a surrender. The taste of rain and salt filled my mouth. His hands tangling in my hair as though he'd been dying of thirst and I was the first drink of water he'd had in years. My back hit the counter, dishes rattling, and neither of us cared. When he finally tore away, breath ragged, his forehead pressed against mine, he whispered, "You'll hate me in the morning. Try me," I said. The nights that followed were a blur of fire and quiet, of stolen touches and sharp words, of tenderness hidden inside hunger. Ethan stopped pretending. The mask of the polite, harmless chef slipped, and what emerged was raw, complicated, uncontainable. Some nights he was gentle, his hand on my cheek, his lips slow, as if memorizing me. Other nights he was relentless, pulling me into the shadows of the kitchen, biting, kissing, claiming, leaving me shaking and breathless. And I let him. God, I let him. Because beneath the danger was something fragile, something human, something that terrified him more than it terrified me. But not everyone was blind to the change between us. It started with whispers. "Something's different about you too." Marcy, the day shift waitress, teased one morning, raising an eyebrow as I stumbled in late. "Hair must." "Shut up," I muttered, but heat crawled up my neck. Then came the looks from the regulars, the way Mrs. Peterson smiled a little too knowingly when Ethan slid me a plate before anyone else, or the way the college kids snickered when they saw us brushing past each other in too tight spaces. We were reckless and people noticed. One night, the manager pulled me aside. "Listen," he said, lowering his voice. "I don't care what's going on between you and Ethan, but don't let it interfere with the job." "Got it. Got it," I said. But the truth was it already had, because every plate I carried, every order I took, every step I took across that linoleum floor, Ethan was there. In my veins, in my lungs, in my chest. And then came the night it all threatened to unravel. A fight, ugly, stupid, and louder than it should have been. It was past midnight, the diner empty. I'd been pushing him all night, asking questions he wouldn't answer, pressing at the edges of the wall he kept between us. "Why won't you just tell me?" I demanded, slamming an order pad on the counter. "You say you want me, you kiss me like I'm the only thing keeping you alive, but then you shut down. Every damn time. What are you so afraid I'll see?" Ethan stood rigid, knife in hand, half a tomato sliced on the cutting board. His grip on the blade was white-knuckled. "Drop it." "No," I snapped. "I can't keep doing this, being half in, half out. Either let me in or let me go." His eyes blazed as he slammed the knife down, the blade clattering against steel. "You think you want the truth?" His voice was sharp enough to cut. "You don't. Nobody ever does. They say they can handle me, that they love me for who I am, but when they see the real thing, they run. And I'm not strong enough to watch you run too." The words hit harder than a slap. My chest ached. "You think so little of me?" I whispered. "I think too much of you," he said, and the way his voice broke nearly shattered me. For a long moment we just stared at each other, two men on opposite sides of the same fire, both too afraid to burn and too desperate not to. Finally, I said, "Then give me the choice." Ethan's jaw worked, his chest rising and falling like he'd just run a marathon. And then, slowly, he nodded. That was the night he told me everything. Not all at once. Not clean, not neat. But piece by piece, between bites of leftover pie and sips of burnt coffee, in a kitchen that smelled like rain and regret. He told me about the fights, the people he'd hurt when he didn't know his own strength. About the way his anger scared him. How he'd built walls of politeness and distance to keep everyone safe from the storm inside him. How he'd been called names, abandoned, left with nothing but a reputation for being the nice guy, because it was easier than letting anyone see the truth. By the time he finished, his voice was raw. His hands trembled on the table, and I reached across the distance and took them. "You're not a monster," I said firmly. "You're just a man who's been hurt too many times. And I'm not going anywhere." For a long time, he didn't speak. But his grip on my hand tightened, and the look in his eyes, God. It was like watching the first crack of sunlight after a storm. Things weren't perfect after that. We still fought. We still broke down. But something had shifted. He let me in, and I stayed. We became a secret storm hidden in plain sight, burning beneath the hum of the diner lights. And little by little, we began to believe that maybe just maybe you could be more than the sum of our scars. The diner never felt the same after that night of confessions. It wasn't just a place of late shifts and cheap coffee. Anna Maria, it was ours. Every corner of it carried echoes. The booth where he told me he wasn't gentle, the counter where he first kissed me, the freezer door I leaned against when I thought I might collapse from the weight of wanting him. But with the truth between us, something shifted. Ethan changed in small, careful ways. He didn't hide as much. His laughter was louder, less polished, less rehearsed. His touch, when no one was watching, grew bolder, his hand brushing against mine when I handed him an order, his knee pressing against mine when we sat in the back booth after hours. He even started humming again when he cooked, little tunes I didn't recognize, but I found myself waiting for them, like breadcrumbs leading me to the softest parts of him. I changed too. I wasn't afraid to meet his eyes anymore. I didn't second-guess the way my body leaned into his when the world got too heavy. For once, I stopped running. But storms never vanish overnight. One evening, weeks after that fight, the diner was packed. We were running ragged, orders piling, customers restless. I dropped a tray, shattering plates across the linoleum. The room went quiet, eyes burning into me. My hands shook as I crouched, and shame burned hot in my chest. Before I could pick up a single shard, Ethan was there. "Back off," he snapped at the gawking customers, his voice sharp enough to silence a room. He crouched beside me, his hand steady on my back. "Hey, breathe." I looked up at him, stunned. Not because he defended me, but because he did it without fear. No mask, no gentle chef performance, just raw, unapologetic Ethan. In that moment, I realized something. Maybe he wasn't just learning to let me in. Maybe he was learning to let the world see him, too. It was after the rush, when the diner was finally quiet, that I found him outside by the back door. Smoke curled from a cigarette he barely touched, his shoulders tense against the brick wall. "You okay?" I asked. He looked at me, and for once he didn't hide. I've never stood up for anyone like that. Not without losing it. I stepped closer, pressing my forehead to his shoulder. "You didn't lose it. You found yourself." His laugh was rough. "You always know what to say, don't you?" "No," I admitted. "But I know what I feel." "And what's that?" His eyes searched mine, wary, hopeful. I kissed him softly, slow and sure, letting the answer sink in. "That you're worth it." His breath hitched, and for a heartbeat, the world stilled. Then his arms wrapped around me, pulling me close in a way that felt like both surrender and promise. The weeks turned into months. Summer bled into fall, the nights colder, the diner windows fogging with the warmth of coffee and pie. Ethan started teaching me how to cook during the dead hours. I burned grilled cheese, oversalted soup, and nearly set a towel on fire, but every mistake made him laugh, and every laugh felt like a victory. We made a rhythm of it, working, learning, stealing kisses in the walk-in freezer, sharing pie at 3 a.m. when the world was asleep. It wasn't perfect. We still argued, still clashed, still scared each other with the depth of it all. But for the first time, there was light at the end of it. And then one night, something shifted again. The diner had closed early for repairs, so it was just us. No customers, no distractions. The storm outside rattled the windows, thunder shaking the walls. We sat in our booth coffee cooling between us. Ethan was quieter than usual, fingers tracing patterns on the table. "What's on your mind?" I asked. He hesitated, then met my gaze. "I don't want to keep hiding. Not from them. Not from anyone." My chest tightened. "You mean us?" He nodded. "I don't care if they whisper, or if they laugh, or if they walk away. I've spent too long pretending to be something I'm not. But with you," his hand found mine, firm and steady. "With you, I want to be real." I didn't realize I was crying until he wiped my cheek with his thumb. "Then be real," I said, voice breaking. "With me, with them, with everyone. Be real, Ethan." His smile, the knit wasn't sharp, or hungry, or haunted. It was soft, pure, and it undid me. The next shift, he proved it. We were slammed with the usual midnight rush, and I was running drinks when Ethan came up behind me. Not too close, not sneaky, just there. He took the tray from my hands, set it down, and before I could protest, he leaned in and kissed me. Right there, in front of everyone. The diner went silent for a heartbeat, then erupted with whispers and laughter, but none of it mattered. All I could feel was Ethan's lips on mine, warm and sure. No hesitation, no shame. When he pulled back, he didn't look at them. He looked at me, and I knew we'd made it through the storm. That night, after closing, we stood outside under the neon glow, rain misting in the air. He held my hand like it was the only thing keeping him tethered. "You know," I said, leaning against him, "I really did think you were just some harmless bunny when I first met you." He chuckled, low and rough. "And now," I tilted my head, brushing a kiss against his jaw, "now I know you're still a bunny, just one with teeth." His laugh rumbled against my chest, and then he kissed me again, slow, deep, endless. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. Because the truth was simple. I wasn't going anywhere, and neither was he. We weren't perfect. We weren't easy. But we were real, and sometimes real was enough. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.